Yo, so we're finishing up our 2.5 hot days in Florence. It's about 100 degrees every day that we've been here, which is 37 degrees Celsius. And Florence is a place that is very old. Most of the buildings here were built around 1400 to 1600, so the city is kind of cramped in the city center. And when you're walking around, it's a little bit uncomfortable trying to avoid cars and all that stuff. But Florence is a place where there's a lot of art history and a lot of art that is stored in Florence. So we checked out the Uffizi Art Gallery, which is probably one of the best museums that we've ever been to in terms of the comfort and in terms of the beauty inside of the museum. We enjoyed the Da Vinci paintings and also some works from Raphael and some other well-known artists like Michelangelo. And so after the Uffizi Museum, we also went to see the statue of David in the Accademia Gallery. And the statue of David is something that you have to see in person to appreciate the magnificence of the sculpture. It's really something that caught me off guard in terms of how beautiful it is and how well polished and everything it is. So definitely something that you have to check out in person to appreciate. Obviously, I also missed the other famous painting in Uffizi, which is the Botticelli's Venus painting, which is a very well-known painting that you've probably seen before. And otherwise, in Florence, we've tried only a very few restaurants. The restaurant that we went to that we ate the Florentine steak, which is La Buchetta. That restaurant, the Florentine steak was not good at all. It was probably Claire's worst steak that she's ever eaten, and so it was very stringy and it wasn't very tender or juicy, so we really didn't like it. But maybe it was because the steak there wasn't that good compared to other restaurants. Maybe other restaurants would prepare it better, but maybe we got unlucky in that situation. When comparing Florence to other cities we've been to on this trip, we would prefer Venice to Florence. So if we had a choice to go to Venice or Florence, we would go to Venice instead. And we also went to Milan, but we prefer Florence to Milan. So basically that is our order of preference so far for the Italian cities that we've been to. Florence seems like a place that you would visit if you really appreciate history and especially art history in general, because there's a lot of history here. Like I said, a lot of the buildings here are really old. When you're walking around Florence, you pretty much we've never seen any modern buildings here when we're walking around Florence. All of Florence, when you look at Florence from the top of Piazzale Michelangelo, you can see that the whole city, there's no high-rise buildings, it's all flat, and it all looks very similar throughout the city, because I guess they're trying to preserve the city's history by not building any kind of newer buildings in the city. So that presents some challenges when you're walking around the city. Like I said, it's kind of cramped. The amenities you have in our Airbnb, I'm pretty sure a lot of the apartments in the area, the amenities are not like modern amenities, and the hardware and that kind of stuff inside of the apartment is older and not as reliable as the newer stuff that we have nowadays. And that's one of the reasons why, as kind of like first newbie travelers to Italy, we don't really like Florence as much as some of the other cities we've been to in Europe. Florence for us is I think more enjoyed as going to a lot of museums and that kind of stuff, which is something that we enjoy doing. But then if you're going to too many museums, after a while you kind of get tired of museums. But like we said, I mean, we prefer Florence to Milan for sure. Florence is a lot more beautiful, a lot more historic. But if you were somebody who's traveling to Italy and your resources and your time is limited, we would recommend going to Rome instead of Florence, because Rome is the place where you really feel the history oozing out of the city, and everywhere you walk in Rome is you feel like you're part of a really ancient historic place. So that's somewhat of a feeling that you get in Florence, but not as much as you would get in Rome, for example. So overall, we really did enjoy our visit to Florence, our short visit to Florence, so take our impressions with a grain of salt. Yeah, we really, as we go around Florence more and more, we do enjoy how it looks at night, and we enjoy walking around near the river. So overall, once again, thanks for watching our impressions, and see you on the next adventure.